Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Felis Mangus, Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Plain Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, BG, Effie Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Mir in the Shire, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Jason Hornsby, JMels24, Unimento, Iron26, Endless, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Chow Young Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. As I say, links to Patreon are below this video. And with that, I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Measurement, we just measure it and it's flat. Like, that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
and people are just, I think the complexity of all of the different inner arguments of flat earth is kind of what might make it seem like too much to deal with for somebody who's new to it. And
right.
when you come at them with these like highly complex arguments about gas pressure and all this stuff, it probably drives them away, or just makes them put up that wall like, oh, you're just a crazy flat earther. It's easy to just cop out of a conversation because it's just too deep for you.
Yeah.
But that's why this like measured flat argument is so pungent, because it's so simple and easy to just be like, well, I mean, I don't believe shit about the earth. It just, we measure it, it's flat, and that's that. Like,
yeah,
right. What do you want to know?
And I think, we definitely have to be careful when it comes to the jobs we have, right? Because if we go out there, you could damage your career, right? Now you want to tell coworkers, and it kind of gets around the job, and now your future prospect there could be completely at risk just for speaking the truth. You know what I mean? So
that's a fact.
Yeah, I certainly I really bring it up at work. I've got some close friends who, of course, I talk to all the time about it. They're well aware of where I stand. As I said, it goes back to, for me, 2010. I'm very happy. My mom passed away in 2020. I made everybody leave the room, and I sat down and I kind of explained everything to her. And now my dad doesn't seem to have much longer to go. He's going to be a little bit of a tougher nut to crack. He was probably one of the original Trekkies on this plane. So for me to have completely destroy his worldview, I know it's going to shatter him, right? So, but I feel like I have to get this out to him. I just, I went through some trauma over this in my relationship. So I took my older brother and I finally told him. And the way it's kind of been presented to us through Nathan makes it very easy to talk about. And as Nathan says, put your best foot forward, right? And my brother, who is also very into the whole science world, I mean, he was just shut down instantly. So yeah, it's certainly an interesting conversation to have out there in the real world. And I'm trying a little bit more each day to let people know, kind of on a select basis as I move forward here,
Dude, man, that reminds me. Like, I feel like still, even with the like measured flat arguments and everything, it's still so easy for a Glober to train wreck the conversation into something that's too complex for them by way of gravity, right? Everyone uses gravity. And gravity is one of those kind of complicated subjects. You got, oh, which one is it? Oh, you got Einstein, you got Newtonian. Oh, and you can go all into it. And they don't even know that, right? They just say, gravity. And they don't even realize that what they're talking about, they don't know what they're talking about. But it's pretty much successfully diverts the conversation into the direction of this conversation's over, because I don't know shit about what I'm talking about. And I can just project that onto you. And now you don't look like you know what you're talking about because I said gravity. I said the magic word. And yeah, like I feel like that is still a thing that happens to me. Like most of the time when I talk to Glovers, they just spit out gravity, and it's like now I got to argue with them about it. I don't have to, but I normally don't. I normally just say, well, just take them right back to the first one. Latitude, bro.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, I mean, you go full circle, and 9.9 times out of 10, when I'm out there in the wild arguing with Globers, they want to look up to the sky to make any kind of point, you know what I mean? And I call them out on it immediately and try to make them appear foolish. Like, hey, this argument's about the ground beneath our feet being measured flat, period. Get your head out of the clouds. That's usually what I tell them,
Yeah, it's flat Earth versus flat Earth, but the E in Earth is capitalized on one of them. When they hear flat Earth, they think capital E Earth, like the entirety of the Earth, all around it, underneath it, above it, everywhere. Where in reality, flat Earth is a lowercase e. We're talking about the ground, the dirt.
Yep.
Yeah,
flat
just the
dirt.
dry land we're standing on.
Exactly.
I don't have the best tactics for when a Glober says gravity because it's really like it's kind of like a sledgehammer in a china shop where like as soon as gravity is mentioned, I kind of like latch onto it until they 100% define what they mean. You just said gravity, now explain it, like define it. Like, what are you talking about when you say gravity? Oh, things fall down.
Right, and that's
Huh.
the trick.
And
That's
then,
their trick.
yeah, as soon as they say things fall down, it's like, okay, so we've isolated what you're talking about Newtonian, and then you just kind of go through that with gas pressure and
Hold on.
clouds and
Hold on. There's
There's no down in the
one
globe.
second,
Hold
It's
on.
kind of funny,
1 second.
dude. Like if you think about it, they're
hold on a
kind of like
second.
just shooting themselves in the face when they
It's a
say
lot simpler.
gravity. They're just like, I don't want to have this conversation. Bow.
It's a lot simpler route when somebody says
like, oh,
gravity.
things fall down. Oh, okay, so what's
Hello,
the water
can you hear me?
cycle? Oh, sorry, Nathan.
When somebody says things go down, what's down?
Yeah, relative to a horizontal
Direction.
point.
I had two
Into
people
a globe,
talking.
of course.
I'm asking Vaxi, whoever it was that talked while Vaxi was being asked me, please stop. One at a time. Vaxi, what's down?
Down is a direction relative to horizontal.
So you'll need a flat earth for that, won't you?
Exactly. Yep, there's a flat Earth needed for everything.
Yeah, their measurement of gravity, if they're going to assert it in the high school perpendicular to a plane of reference downward vector, then they're going to need a flat earth to describe it perpendicular to the plane of reference that they're describing that vector with. So down, you don't get to use down. Down is a flat earth only description. Stop using our stuff would be my response.
Exactly. Perpendicular, that's one of those words that they're not allowed to use. I had Omnivore the other day absolutely melt down when I asked him to define what perpendicular was, and he flipped out and left.
Yeah, they do. They lose their nut when it's explained to them that they're using flat earth prerequisites, measurements, distances, heights, perpendiculars, parallels. All of these things require surface level, a flat earth to describe them. Directionality, same thing. The amount of times that my commenters get caught out, the globe believing commenters that want to pour scorn on what we do, get caught out by using prerequisites like directionality. Like, you don't get to use north, south, east, or west ever again, because it's a horizontal, flat direction when you use it. So don't. Or sink to your knees and acknowledge how flat earth is for these directions.
Agreed. Guys got the upper hand. Remember that.
Oh yeah,
But that should also
it's just
bring
when you
you,
get in the heat of it.
it should also bring you
Sorry.
the kind of peace that doesn't necessarily want you to approach your brother, your dying father, whoever. You know, once you've found that kind of inner peace, you kind of find yourself negating the need to want to tell people, to feel the need to inform them. I found that the less or the least I knew about this subject, the more compelled I felt to talk to other people about it and tell them. But what I was really doing is just masking my own ignorance of the subject. the more enlightened I become about the subject, the less I actually want to tell people about it. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't continue the show. It doesn't mean I won't do what I do. It just means that the compulsion to do it fades. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, Nathan. My father is probably the last person I have to sit down and have this discussion with that I feel compelled to. There's really nobody else left I feel compelled to discuss this with.
That is
That's
exactly
on
it.
you. I don't see
When you're
why.
new to the, oh, sorry, Neil.
No, I'm just saying that's you, so that's your business. But I don't feel compelled to tell anybody. If it comes up, I'll just explain it to them, and then they could take it from there.
Yeah, like I was saying, it's come up at work. Like I wasn't even involved. I was just sitting at the bar. We had no one in for lunch that day. I was sitting at the bar, and they started talking about it. Two coworkers, the one line cook and one of the bartenders, were talking about it. And like for a split second, I got kind of like giddy. I'm like, ooh, I want to. But then after a few minutes, I'm like, I don't even feel like it. I got to go peel like 500 potatoes and shit. I'm just gonna leave it be. I don't even feel like it.
500 potatoes takes precedence.
Yeah. Because
But wait a
one of two
second.
things
Hold
is going
on.
to happen. Either we're going to get completely distracted and not get anything else done, or it's going to turn into a blow up and I'm going to get fired. And I don't want to get fired today. So
But how are they talking about it? Like, how did it come up? Have you spoken to them before? Or just out of nowhere, they decide to talk about flat Earth?
no, it was more. It wasn't necessarily strictly flat Earth. They started talking about how they don't trust anything that NASA says, and oh, we don't believe in the moon missions. You don't think we can go to the moon? It was very basic. Like it wasn't. I guess technically, it wasn't even really a flat Earth conversation they were having, but it was starting to lean towards that way. I could tell, but that's just when I kind of like excused myself from it and went back into the kitchen and started doing other things. Because at first I was kind of like, I'm like, oh, this is a good opportunity. The door just opened. But then I'm like, you know what? I I don't feel like it today. I just didn't, and I just never did. And you know, I'm not there anymore. I'm in a different place now. So, but but it's
Yeah,
happened before. I was working for a flooring company, like cutting tile for a fancy golf course, and the guy that was my boss, he just randomly asked me one day. He goes, "Hey, I got a question," and I'm like, "What's up?" And he goes, "Do you have any like opinions about Antarctica?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" And this was back in like this is before COVID. Like this was like the month before COVID in March. And I'm like, "What do you mean like about Antarctica?" He goes, "It just seems like there's a lot of weird conspiracies about it." I was watching a video this morning, and I was kind of a rookie then, so we started talking about that. But it is weird how like there's more people kind of like more people know about like the weirdness of NASA and all these feast of nonsense crap than you would really think. It is like that's the thing though. It's the feast of nonsense that's popular.
yeah. Anything to
It's
take
the
you away
sexy
from
flashing sign.
the measurements. It's all just a magic trick
Right.
because they need the same measurements of Earth that have always been measured. Their balls created with it. So what's the magic trick? Well, make it all about the curve calculator, make it really complicated, and make it cognitively expensive to deal with. And then people won't deal with it. They'll just listen to whoever tells them they've got it figured out already, rather than spending the energy to figure it out. Well, what we're doing at the moment, talking about how Earth's simply measured flat for everybody always and without exception, that actually makes it very cognitively easy to process. Especially if they've got
Right.
an example in their mind of how, well, no, Earth's proven to be a ball with X. And if you can, like with gravity a second ago, if you can take what they assume to be a proof of a globe, gravity, and say, well, no, that's down with respect to a plane of reference. That's what down is. Your vector that you're describing requires Earth be flat. Again, something that's incontestable and in line with something that's so very simple. That's to say, the measurements are very simple and universal. then you're going to get less pushback. But only if you're allowing that person to come to the information of their own volition rather than trying to force it upon them.
Right. We were talking about the measurements in it's this other server that I got invited to a couple weeks ago. I think it's called Worldwide Debate, hosted by that Riggs character. And there was a couple in there, we were talking about the elevation angles and how Earth's measured flat. And then one of them out of nowhere just goes, "Oh, that's all bullshit because you have sine and cosine." And before, like a year ago, that would have tripped me up. But then I remember what you guys were talking about the other day, and I'm like, wait a second, sine and cosine is a calculation after we measure it flat, dude. And as soon as you say that, they have nothing. It's an after the fact nonsense.
Calculation of what? Triangles?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But they're like, no, well, you do it's all sine and cosine, bro, because it's a ball. And I'm like, no, it's calculated afterwards. You measure it flat as a horizontal plane, and then you can inject sine and cosine afterwards to calculate your ball. But I mean, I still have issues with that myself, with like explaining and understanding how sine and cosine actually work. I just get confused with that shit. But it was enough for them to like just not even bring it up again. So it worked.
Go ahead, whoever that was.
Oh, I was just saying Sakatoa sine is equal to Jason over hypotenuse. Cosine is
I agree.
opposite over hypotenuse, and then tangent is opposite over adjacent.
But when we're talking about calculating with Sokotoa, you got it right immediately, Vaxi. You're like, well, what are the measurements? Well, if you're talking about triangles, the adjacent is the ground. It's the distance that you'll need to measure that's flat. So that's what's going to get plugged in. If you're talking about the hypotenuse, you're talking about the line up to, I don't know, a star or whatever you're measuring. So you're talking about elevation angles if it's with respect to Earth's planar surface for that angle. So you do know the answer to this. You don't need to know anything about trig.
Right.
I mean, you were taught this in
that's
high
why
school, though, right? The square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares on the other two sides.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but do you need that to know that the measurement itself is flat?
Nope.
No, not really. It just adds a little bit more detail to it.
Sure, but beyond the measurement, what's actually required? Well, nothing. Once you've got to the stage where you've measured the horizontal distance, what more do you need? You've measured Earth flat.
Mm.
So you can't move forward to calculate things with trig unless you accept that Earth's been measured flat. It's forming part of your trigonometric calculation. But the calculation will always come after the measurement. You need values to put in. Now, today I've been writing about being suckered into arguing about the curve calculator and giving credit to Anthony Riley, but undermining that credit straight away afterwards by saying I didn't notice that all of the values being put into the calculator to argue about how far we should or shouldn't see things were flat Earth calculations. That was the point of making the calculator available to us, so that we ignore how flat Earth is measured and argue instead about the distance to the geometric horizon below surface level. But you need surface level. You need horizontal distance measurement. You need perpendicular to the plane for height. You need all of these flat Earth prerequisites, parallel eye level, all of these things that can only be afforded to you for processing through the calculation if Earth is measured flat. But for your layman, you don't need any of those ancillary explanations. You just need to know how the actual measurement's taken place. What is the measurement of Earth? So on yesterday I was watching a guy that I watch for tuning computers, Frame Chasers he's called, and he's explaining that there's all these bullshitting sponsored videographers who get paid to shill for various different electronics manufacturers, and they'll come out with these what he sees as quite egregious claims that aren't true, simply because they've got a paycheck coming to them from whatever manufacturer. And his argument is that most of them can just be tested at home. You can just test their claim and by way of measurement, see if it's true or not. And then he gives an example that, unlike Flat Earth, where you've just got to trust me, bro. Now, he didn't use that shortened version, but I'm going to. And my response to him underneath in his comment section was, have you measured Earth? Now, he's probably already banned me long ago because I'm a flat earther. But my point is still the same, and it's useful in this example. His use of ridicule to mock people who just believe in whatever they've heard another videographer say about a piece of technology could be disavowed by way of measurement. But his example for just trust me bro was flat earth, very annoying to me, because by the same token it's like, well, if you don't know about this subject, number one, don't talk about it, but number two, feel free to talk about it if you've done as you suggest with your computer technology. Measure it and then base your opinion on the measurements that you've made, not on what next man tells you. And that's generally this guy's shtick. Frame Chaser's shtick is to say, test it. Don't trust next man when he says this is better. Test it and measure it. Now, test in our vernacular when we're talking about tests is actually scientific endeavours, which is a category error when we're talking about measurements of Earth. But you can understand contextually how when he says test it, he means plug the piece of equipment in and literally test whether or not it does what they're suggesting it does or not. So contextually, test is fine for him to use. But for us, it's just, what is Earth? How is Earth measured?
Flat.
Yeah, then there's no trust me, bro. There's just what's the measurements.
And that's no longer an opinion.
Yep.
When you know that.
Correct.
Trust me, bro. I'm in the know.
So how can you debate something that's not an opinion, something that's a fact?
Can't.
There is no debate.
Right, so you need to make it into two things. One, cognitively expensive for the person hearing it. Because then you can just tell them, we've got this covered. Science knows it's a ball. And two, turn what is very simplistic measurements into something else. Calculations. Again, make it cognitively expensive. The two go hand in hand. Perfect example is the curve calculator. Most people will take one look at that and go, that looks complicated. Who can tell me how it works? I did it with Anthony Riley. That looks complicated. How does this all work? I'll trust you to tell me how it works. And because I didn't trust my own integrity, whatever you want to call it, tenacity, no, that's not the right word either. Inclination to check things, whatever the short and correct terminology for that is. I relied on next man. Now, does it mean that if I had looked at it myself, I'd have noticed surface level, sea level, eye level, height above there, sea level? No, not necessarily. But that's where I feel we come in the modern day. We point these things out to make it cognitively cheap to understand. But we don't have to. And you don't have to. You don't have to tell your dad on his deathbed that Earth's flat. Why? Why does he need to know?
For my specific example,
Yeah.
we're dealing with somebody who's been running his own little website for 25 years called truthfacts.net. That's been all things, feast and nonsense related, space related, NASA related. So that was kind of my motivation.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Fair enough. That is the exception to the rule, and I'm sure now you've answered me. You understand me asking and how you've got the exception to the rule.
Yeah, he needs to get straightened out.
Exactly. I do appreciate how eloquently and simplified you present the argument, though, with the Earth being measured flat. And as you kind of recommended, going back to at least the beginning of this year, putting our best foot forward when we're kind of out there in the wild, and it's certainly very impactful as a method to kind of just tell them how it is. And then adding to that point, not only is Earth measured flat, but any nonsense you want to come back with is simply a subsequent calculation of that fact.
Yeah, well put. Like I say, if you take a cursory glance, it looks complicated, and most people will shy away from it. Or alternatively, find a nice, simple explanation from someone else who's understood it implicitly and then diluted it for your benefit. That is what most people seek. The simple, easy solution, not the complicated figuring it out for yourself. So I think we should make it easier for people. And like anything truthful, the truth tends to be pretty simple once it's laid down for you. Once it's laid out, you go, yeah, that's actually really easy. I didn't need to fear this.
Human nature to complicate things, Nathan. I put the comparison the other day with Christianity. Very simple. Christ died for your sins, that's it. Well, people complicate it. Earth is measured flat, that's it. People want to complicate it. And I never understood the pushback from my own. I never really understood it.
Well, trying to turn it into an argument is the problem. It's not an argument.
Yeah, we're talking about the fact of the matter is this. This is how we measure it. And that's flat. That knocks everything else out of the box. So it's simple. Am I right?
I think you're 100% right, Neil. And to speak to Nathan's point, I think, there's an intellectual laziness in society where people don't want to put an effort even for a simple truth like that and would rather just rely on kind of what I call the expert syndrome in all things culture, right, including this particular topic. Let somebody else figure it out for me, tell me, and then I'll just kind of parrot the information.
Yeah, and that's achieved through repetition. Having it repeated over and over again makes it cognitively easy to process.
Yeah, but it's not, how could that? I'm confused because it's so simple that how can you be lazy on it? Like, to me, it's like counterproductive. You don't need to spend time on it. It's very easy.
It's so easy it was taken for granted.
Correct. Then they did it deliberately that way.
That's what I've come to realize. But like the elevation angle argument, for me, that's the simplest one. But in the beginning, it was the exact opposite because, like, I didn't know what a hypotenuse was. Like, this is stuff I haven't heard of in like over a decade since I was in school. So like, I had to like relearn what a triangle is essentially. It makes me sound incredibly stupid, but it's just, I mean, it's a fact. I didn't think of a right angle triangle or a 90-degree or any of that stuff. I'm like, wait a second. Every single sentence of this topic is going right over my head, like a hypotenuse. And I'm like, start looking at little pictures. I'm like, okay, so that's the hypotenuse. Bottom's the opposite. Okay. And then like once you figure out what the argument's actually saying, and like, I mean, just the simple like having someone define what an angle is, two straight lines meeting at a vertex, like that makes the argument 1,000 times simpler. But it wasn't even anything I was thinking of. I was more into the ice walls and blue people that live beyond Antarctica and like secret continents that we're not allowed to go to. But then like when you just break it down to the nuts and bolts of what an angle is, it breaks the door wide open and just makes it the most simplest thing in the world. But if you don't know what an angle is, you don't know what an angle is. You got to learn it.
When 10th man was laying out the celestial navigation, it all just came flooding in like an ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not cognitively easy for me to process. I fought it the entire time.
Yeah, a lot of us did.
And that's probably because I had been fooled. I didn't want to be fooled again. So I was hyper skeptical instead of just listening. You know?
With all the flat plane drawings that were there. Anyway, for you guys that are in Discord, if you see auditing the absurd, just ban them.
Speaking of drawings, Neil, I always loved that drawing of the boat. You know, casting an elevation angle on a ball. You remember that one?
Yeah.
It was hilarious to look at.
But you know what's funny about like all the angles and the triangles and circles of equal altitude and all that? Because this, like, what year? I mean, this has been like the main focus for going on 4 years now, right? Maybe it's a little longer. But let's say that I was like 28 when I first heard. Oh, no, let's say I was 30 when I first heard it, or 32, whatever. My 9-year-old would have grasped it immediately as soon as she heard it, versus me when I'm like post 30, because I was so far removed from that subject of just geometry in general. The fact that she has to do homework now about right angle triangles and the hypotenuse and figuring out, like, if you got like a 30-degree hypotenuse and stuff, like how to figure out the rest of the angles. Like, she already knows how to do that automatically because she's learning it currently. So it's just funny to think like that the topic is so incredibly simple, but if you're like removed from it for a long time and you just forget what the terms mean, then it gets a little intimidating. But yeah, I mean, my 9-year-old picked it up way faster than I would whenever the topic first dropped.
Gentlemen, I'm going to jump off now. I'm a little starstruck. This was awesome. I had a chance to talk to everybody, and I'm going to jump over to and get the sharing ready for the show, and join you all on the YouTube side. So take care.
Wait a second. Hold on, starstruck. Nobody can be as starstruck as I was. You want to know what my first words were? Is
What's
this Nathan Oakley, the legend?
Neil, I'm a little starstruck talking directly to you as well, sir.
That's funny.
You all have a great morning. Bye-bye.
What was that guy's name?
See you later, Flat Earth Cafe. Flat Earth Cafe.
Flat Earth Cafe.
On YouTube, he said he goes by Never a Straight Answer. Once he said that, that was his YouTube name, I totally recognized
yeah,
who
I know
he was.
exactly who he is now.
Okay. Yeah, he's always in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said he just started joining the Discord just a couple days ago. He said he's had Discord since 2023, but he just now started trying to use it. So that's cool.
Here's what's happening. Because of this current state of affairs that we find ourselves in, you got CC, that's always been in the chat, joining yesterday. This guy coming in. So what's happening is a new panel is starting to develop.
Yeah, we need to get a few more people.
Yeah, it's called a power vacuum.
So we can add them to G+.
No, I agree. Like you always say, look, if we don't show up, the show's going to go on. This is proof of it. Now, the show's going to go on. As long as Nathan starts it, there will be a show.
We ain't got nobody to call everyone numpty retards.
Well, calling people
As part
numpty
of its
retards, that
charm.
was like my ultimate, like that's what attracted to me to FED in the first place. Because I was watching Dave Weiss get absolutely smoked by nobodies on YouTube. And like he would just end up looking really dumb afterwards. But then you see people like Nathan and you guys, and it's the exact opposite. You guys are the ones dragging them around by the neck. And that was the greatest thing
Exactly.
ever when I'm like, wow, it's finally flat earthers are the ones attacking, not getting crushed.
Yep, that was me too. I was like, wow, they got the upper hand over here. Exactly. And it was funny because it came from David Weiss saying that I can't get enough of those guys across the pond. Nathan Oakley, the flat earth debate. I was like, who the hell is that? I'd never heard of this. And I started Googling, trying to find it. And when I did, boy, that's why I planted my flag immediately.
I came here with the intention of undermining every aspect of your claims.
As a
Did you
baller
succeed with
should.
Morgile doing that? So you originally did that with Morgile, but you never actually told us if you achieved anything with that. Did you achieve undermining Morgile?
Well, I just played on him presupposing the existence of space in almost all of his arguments. So I'd get him to talk about, the endless vacuum or respond to that as if it existed. And then I would just sit back and laugh. It was a game.
Who's this handsome dude?
I was going to say, who's that handsome brother?
Chocolate?
What's up, guys?
Sky. Perpendicular to a plane of reference.
Oh, yeah.
I'm at an e-commerce expo. It got a little boring.
A what?
What got boring? Too good for you, Eli. Fine.
I heard him say something about an expo.
Oh yeah, I'm just at an e-commerce expo and over there on 14th Street.
14th and what?
He's
Okay,
gone.
we'll never find out.
We'll never
I
know.
think he only opens his mic to interrupt and to play conversation that's happening in the background.
You're on mute, Eli. You gotta love him.
Yeah. I bet he's at 14th Street in Union Square.
Somebody missing New York?
The only thing I miss from New York is the amount of money I'm able to make in the time I'm there. Like if I could make the same thing that I make there over here, everything would be peachy.
Fair enough.
I 100% feel you on that, Neil.
Not only that,
Like
I do miss a lot of the things. Like there's so many different places that you can go eat or try out, like things like that. I do miss. You know.
I just miss the larger economy of the Northeast. Like I'm not New York. I'm from Boston originally, but thing is, doing the same job in the state I live in, I make X. But if I was to go back and do the exact same thing where I grew up at, I'd make double.
Yeah, you make half what you make over here. You make half.
But I mean, my mortgage is 520.
If you're making
up there,
$2,000 a week,
15.
Yeah, if you're making $2,000 a week in New York, you're lucky if you're making $1,000 over here. But the problem is, everything's the same price. The food's the same price here as it is in New York. The rents are maybe a little bit lower, but not that much. The insurances are the same price.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have to deal with New Yorkers. That's priceless.
Yeah.
Yeah, but down south is a different type.
Around?
No, down south they bless your heart. They fill you with kindness, but stab me in the back. You think you got knife wounds, Nathan? Oh, they'll stab me in the back with a smile over here. Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a
the one thing I
fact.
miss about the Northeast. Is like you know where you stand with people, whereas here in Alabama, it's like, yeah, they say all the nice things to me, and they're always super pleasant when they see me. But as soon as you're like not in their presence, they're just like people are more conniving here. That's because
The
it's
way
a
you
small
become the butt
community.
of a
Everybody
joke
knows
in the
everybody. It's
South.
just the culture.
Yeah, John.
I was going to say the way you become the butt of a joke in the South is to leave the room.
That's true. You hit it right on the head there. You got to stay in the room. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Ballers can't be saying what's up no more.
No.
Just realize that.
Up is perpendicular to a plane of reference. I've actually got some music to play after this little interlude and discussion that starts the show off. So about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago, 10th Man produced a song, passed it on to me and said, are you going to play this on the show? And I was like, yeah, of course. And then I subsequently edited it together with a load of microphones in the background just so there was something to have on the video itself. But as of yet, there's only a handful of people that have heard it as a unlisted video. So in a few moments, we will get to that song, which is called Lite Don't Lie by 10th Man Rising, but we'll get to that shortly. How are you all in Discord? We're all really good, Nathan. Thanks for asking. Oh, well, I'm really pleased to have you all here. It's good that...
Yeah. Good morning, Nathan. Good. Out in the window. It's horrible.
You've reminded me to do a shout out to you, Len, who I keep giving the wrong name, even though you've told me twice. Thank you, Len, and Paula, and D Rose for supporting me via PayPal. I really, really appreciate it. So, most, if not all, of the money I'm getting via PayPal is currently getting funneled directly onto my wife to keep her motivated to do transcription work on the book. So, I am extremely grateful to be in a position to do that. And so thank you. It's really, really appreciated. I realised that you, Len, said it's for candy floss. But no, it probably won't go on candy floss. It'll go on keeping my wife motivated away from her actual work and doing mine. So I'm really grateful to everybody who's been giving me money recently via PayPal. Thank you so much. Just know it's not actually going into my pocket. It's going into my wife's. Now, we're in the same house. Obviously, it's all part of the same pot. But I just want to make you aware of that. But I think that's probably why people have been giving me money. Number one, because I'm moaning I'm poor. And number two, because they're aware that I'm literally paying my wife to do work that I've spent 12 months already doing once. Very annoying. But outside of my annoyance to it, I've also gained a new degree of motivation to describe some of the things that have been experienced over the 10 or 11 years of doing this subject of flat Earth. And in every single endeavour to write a new anecdote about the subject of Earth being measured flat, I can now, with the knowledge that we have currently got, incorporate those facts into the embarrassing feast of nonsense as I look back on it, in things like the Isle of Man discussion, utilisation of the curve calculator. And for anybody who's unfamiliar with this, it's unlikely, but it might be a newbie that's in the audience. The begging the question, proof of nothing perspective, hijacking Earth curve calculator is a game that we play where the measurements of Earth inputted into the calculator are ignored after they've been punched in. They're just treated as values used as a means to an end. The end being arguing about where Earth curve should reside below surface level, which is measured for your height perpendicular with respect to it. That's altitude with respect to sea level. And your horizontal linear flat Earth measurement of distance that also gets punched into it for your prerequisite requirement for parallel eye level, also utilised and labelled in the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective, hijacking Earth curve calculator. So as I'm writing that, not that sentence, but the sentiment about the Earth curve calculator and its use back in the day with Anthony Riley, I'm constantly reminding my soon to be reading audience member who buys the book and reads about this stuff, how embarrassing it is to reflect upon us not noticing. And in the pre-show, we were discussing exactly that, how cognitively expensive this argument has been made in the mind's eye of anybody who comes across it. There's a shortcut that seems to be required so that you don't have to spend huge amounts of mental energy figuring out how the curve calculator functions. And seeing somebody else tell you that it's science, we've figured it out already, it's definitely ball-shaped. You can go, all right, you figured it out, it's science, therefore empirical, therefore we already know Earth's a ball, and this maths that I don't really understand proves that, does it? Yes, sir. Now watch flat earthers and anti-flat earthers argue about how far the geometric sphere edge horizon should be. All designed for one purpose, to get you, and me in this instance, self-referenced in the book, to whistle past how flat Earth gets measured, with horizontal distance, perpendicular height of eye level, above sea level. That's what it's designed to do. Make you ignore that before you do anything, you're required to measure Earth flat 3 different ways. But if you can ignore all of those facts, you can argue about where the geometric physical sphere edge horizon might reside below the surface level. So that's the point. Now, 10 or 11 years into the discussion, we can highlight this with exceptional consistency and clarity. And it is a very simple argument once you understand it. Further to that, you realise there was no argument. If both sides are utilising prerequisites that only exist on a flat Earth for the measurements thereof, you don't need to argue about anything. Earth's being measured flat by everyone, in all circumstances, and without exception. Earth is flat. That's how it's measured. We checked. Who wants a song?
It would seem.
Well, okay, John, you first.
Yeah, you go.
I was just going to say it would seem almost a red herring to ask them where Earth curve is, given that the measurements are all planar in nature. It's like we're inviting them to give us a bad answer, like asking AI to give you an answer when there isn't one.
Yeah, there isn't a requirement for one.
I was just going to say, there's not an argument, and why would people argue on something they agree upon? And we all agree, them too, right? Because they're using it flat. So where's the argument?
There isn't one. There never was and there never will be. Creating the impression of an argument was the trick that we all fell for 10 years. And you summarised it on Thursday of last week, Neil, when you said that the roads to flat Earth are paved with conspiracy. To have all roads seem like the flat Earth is a conspiracy makes you, the person peddling the idea, the belief in a flat Earth, seem ludicrous if you then go on to talk about 9/11 truth, that there's a magic bullet for Charlie Kirk, whatever you're talking about that's conspiratorial in nature and essentially undermines the facts in the discussion that there shouldn't be. There shouldn't be a discussion about Earth and its quote-unquote shape when all aspects of Earth are measured flat without exception. The arbiter of what Earth is in that regard are the measurements, and they are flat. For everyone, always. If you can get it to seem like, well, it's about 9/11 truth. It's about Mandela effect. It's about clone centres. It's about Tartaria. It's about psychopathy or subliminal messaging. It's about anything but the measurements of Earth. Then when that person comes across the curve calculator, they're blinded by the complexity. And they don't notice the wood for the trees. The wood being the flat Earth measurements you punch into those calculations. The measurements are of Earth. The calculations are of a fantasy. The ball Earth is a fantasy based on flat Earth measurements.
It's almost like asking someone to count the number of passes on the black team, right? You're getting them to miss it by focusing their attention somewhere else.
Exactly. The magician waves the wand for a reason, so that you don't notice him palming the coin. That's the point of the wand. And like John's example, if you can get two teams bouncing balls and you say, pick a team and count how many bounces, and then once you're done, they go, right, you got your answer? And you go, yep, definitely 67. You go, did you notice the bear walking through the scene? And you go, bear? You go, yeah, bear. Did you notice it? You go, no. You go, bloody hell, I didn't notice the bear when you shown the replay. They go, right, so it was all about the bear. And you go, no. Did you notice that the background changed colour? And you go, what? No, I didn't notice that either. And before you realise...
I see.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I see. So that's what the Earth curve calculator was for. Look over here. Tell us what's going on over here. So you miss all the flat Earth measurements that are right in front of you.
Yeah, they need to distract away from them. Because if it's too obvious that they're using the same measurements of Earth that would prove it's flat, then the game's ended before it's begun. So you need to simultaneously figure a way of utilising flat Earth prerequisites, elevation angle measurements, perpendiculars, up, down, directionality, north, south, east, west. If you can figure a way of incorporating all of this stuff into a ball, like on screen now, where would north, south, east and west appear? Well, on a plane, on the circle, two-dimensionally, flat. But that's in a ball. Well, there's still a ball, right? What's this? Parallel with the ball, in a ball, with a north pole running down it as an axis? That's confusing. Yeah, it is. That's the point. Make it as confusing as possible so that you don't recognise how Earth is actually being measured and utilised in all examples and without exception. Flat for everyone. Make it complicated. The simplistic truth is always going to be the thing that wins out, though. And the simple reality of Earth being measured, navigated, mapped, charted, flown over, sailed upon, flat, is the easy and simple fact that everybody must cope with and deal with. So when you get people telling us, well, it's measured locally flat, that's because when they've looked into the measurements, they've realised they're flat and want to continue to believe in a ball and justify the use of the flat measurements. So locally flat. It's like, why are you apologising for how flat we have to measure Earth? Locally doesn't mean anything. Measurement means something, flat means something. In this context, that's what Earth's being measured as. But it's only local. Okay, so we only measure Earth locally flat. So Earth's measured flat then? Yeah, it is. But that doesn't mean it's not a ball. Sea level bends. Okay, well, if you want to believe that, it doesn't alter what you will still use while you justify how level can still be bending. Your measurement and application thereof will always be flat, regardless of your justification and apology for it, and then explanation that violates the law of non-contradiction thereafter, saying that level isn't level anymore because my level, the ground I believe we're standing on, and measuring flat, curves in my belief system. Therefore, I'll violate the law of non-contradiction while simultaneously holding it to be true when we measure Earth.
You can't say level curves and use the Earth curve calculator at the same time.
No,
It's
surface
impossible.
level's flat.
Like the guy yesterday, wasn't it? You know, after watching the presentation for an hour, which clearly the PhD guy clearly shown a post stuck into the ground, and then he referenced the horizontal line as the ground, and then measured the shadow of the vertical post stuck in the ground across the ground. And then the guy come on and said, it's got nothing to do with the ground.
Yeah, until they need the ground to be the application of the measurement. The trick is, measure the ground, but say it's not the ground until we're calculating that measurement of a flat ground into sphericity. Then it's the ground.
Yeah, it's just not their ground. When they say not the ground, they mean not the globe ground. And we know that.
That should have been my reply yesterday, rather than losing my temper.
Yeah, it's a good reply, that, when you used it the other week.
Not your ground. Not your curved ground, it isn't. It's flat ground that we're measuring. Right, who wants to do a 10th Man song?
Me, I heard it already, but
Yeah.
I'll hear it again.
So this is 6 minutes, so it's going to be reasonably lengthy, just for those of you who might want to fast forward it because you don't want a song, you just want to hear us talking. But this is called Light Don't Lie, and it's by 10th Man Rising.
Don't lie. From zero rise to zenith's crown, the angles hold, they don't back down. Each degree, 16 nautical miles, the count repeats, all on one line beneath our feet. From zero climb to 90 high, 5,400 nautical miles lie. No arc below, no sphere to mend, one flat baseline shared end to end. Light don't lie, the truth's in frame. 290s meet and call by name. The measure's clean, the angles don't break. No curving ground, no mirrored fake. The stars declare in pure delight. Flat distance marks the grand design. Light don't lie, it holds the line. Truth in measure, pure and fine. The angle's arc is not the floor. It frames the view, but nothing more. The angle starts from horizon C, a straight line base to geometry. Diverging beams from stars afar meet the baseline just where they are. Each measured rise, each sextant glance proves angles true, not chance or dance. Light don't lie and baseline stay fixed and level every day. From zenith roof to horizons run, one long baseline beneath the sun. No arcs distorted, no heights to feign. Flat precision holds the rein. Light don't lie, it's clear and plain. Truth and measure, no refrain. Equal circles trace the field, angles measured, no myths concealed. Two right angles, one shared span, proof by sight and hand of man. Distance runs straight, direction true, not bent by creed, it's geometry. Light don't lie, it shows the way, flat and true, no games to play. The eye to star, horizon guides, draws the law creation tide. From angles root, the truth will climb, each minute known, each mile in time. The arc of stars made on the view, the baseline measured won't bend it through. Each fix you find, each plotted way rests on a plane that will not sway. Light don't lie, the truth's in frame. 290s meet and call by name. The measure's clean, the angles don't break. No curving ground, no mirrored fake. The stars declare in pure delight. Flat distance marks the grand design. Light don't lie, it holds the line. Truth in measure, pure and fine. Truth in measure, pure and fine. Not bent by creed. It's geometry, geometry. The stars declare in pure delight. Beneath the sun, no curve can ride where 90s get. 290s framed in straight repose. The measure lock, the circle shows. From GP light to zenith line, symmetry born in the grand design. No skyward curve, no waving floor. The flat lifespan stands forevermore. Light don't lie, it's set in stone. Truth in measure stands alone. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so, and God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the fourth day. From eye to star, from sea to span, measured truth defines the plan. It's not illusion nor belief, just calm precision past all grief. So mark it straight and let it live. No curve can rise where 90s give. Light don't lie, it's clear to see, flat and true, continually. Flat and true, continually. Continually.
That was Light Don't Lie by 10th Man Rising. So I will put a link after the fact into the live stream comment section, or the video's comment section once it's finished live. And you can go and check out 10th Man's channel. Most of it isn't music, just so you know. He's a flat earther talking about flat earth stuff. But he has, on occasion, got the intonation to make some music, and that's an example of it. So once again, that was Light Don't Lie by 10th Man Rising. Big shout out to you, 10th Man. Really appreciate it. Excellent stuff. We all enjoy that?
Absolutely. Great song. I like it.
That's great.
I like at the end when he went to scripture.
Yeah, it's good. Well, he's a very Christian guy, so makes sense that he'd use scripture and use it as his palette. Very good.
Yeah,
Well,
good that.
I like it because it... Go ahead, One Deck.
I'm just saying I enjoyed that. Good, some nice lyrics in there. The vibe, I don't know. I was trying to think. It reminded me of a group. I don't know if it was Dire Straits sort of
Yes.
sound in there.
That's because the guy sounds like Dire Straits.
Yeah, it was good. Truth and straight, never lie. Or truth and measure, lie. That was a good lyric in there. Nice one, Sam. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too.
Mark Knopfler.
Mark Knopfler, yeah, that's it. Well,
Anyway.
it was no Earth is a Giant Roast Chicken, but it was a really good song.
No, I was going to say, I like the scripture because that's what it says, what the stars are, what we use them for, what God intended them for. It gets into the firmament. Now, we know that we need gas pressure. We know that we need containment. I'm not saying that the firmament is, but I do know that we are contained.
Yeah, indeedy. I have gas pressure without a container. Outer space is fake. But again, to me, the whole notion of space itself is designed to take you away from the flat Earth measurements that are being utilised, even by claim to be travellers through space. They're still using flat Earth prerequisites to describe altitude, perpendicularity, even measurements of the stars with sextants. They're using flat Earth prerequisites left and right.
Pardon me, space is defined as length, width, and height.
Yeah, I'm talking about outer space, the sky vacuum that's alleged to be above our head at 10 to the minus 17 torr.
But that's not out. So,
No. Just up, measured from sea level. In which case, contextually, space would be a perfectly appropriate description.
yeah, just the idea of an infinitely expanding nothingness with a pizza or a ball flying around in it is absurd.
I mean, the pizza would be more accurate in terms of how that they put a flat plane into orbital mechanics. So if you look at how an orbit functions, you've got the line, I think trajectory would be the correct term, for the ball to move around the sun. That line that the ball moves along is actually bifurcating the Earth through the equatorial plane derived from the radial value measured at the minimum of Polaris. Therefore, to say that you've got a pizza flying around the sun is a far more appropriate way of describing the derivation of orbital mechanics.
Yes, that is true.
The equatorial plane that's measured, that they've put into motion around the sun. So, ironically, I can't believe we've just come across another one of those scenarios where they project upon us what is part of their rhetoric. I can't believe we've just figured this out. This is something new every day. So, often we'll describe how they've got edges for boats to fall over in the description of, say, Cook. So I can't remember, I think it was Gin saying that in the Hamlet cigar advert, you've got a character on a boat coming to the edge of the earth, mocking flat earthers while he smokes a Hamlet cigar, saying happiness is a cigar called Hamlet. And the gag being that Columbus, who's being used in that example, finds his way to the edge of a flat earth. Now that's a description that's foisted upon us because in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking earth curve calculator that uses flat earth measurements like perpendicularity and horizontal linear distance measurements, they suggest that their boats fall over the horizon. So they project their weakest part of their own argument onto us. So they create a straw man for us to fight against. Well, we've just come up with another one, another example of a straw man that's created where a pizza Earth, a flat disk in space, is alleged to be our version of a reality we're strawmanned with because it's an argument created on our behalf for us to fight and brace against, when in reality, the equatorial plane, derived from flat Earth measurements of minimums of stars reaching the horizon, creates a flat planar surface to bastardize into sphericity. But it's revealed in the line of orbital motion that traverses or bifurcates the globe Earth at the equatorial plane. So a more accurate description for them and their orbital mechanics, that's heliocentrists being them, is a flat pizza Earth traveling around the sun. That's their orbital model derived from flat Earth measurements. So what do? Tell us we've got a pizza flying around the sun. I didn't think we'd get to any more of those, John. I didn't think there was more, but there's another example of, would you call it inversion? Or it's like a burden of proof reversal, but not. It's like projecting your own weak argument onto your opponent, so they have to defend it rather than yourself. Okay, there's got to be a word for it. I just don't know what it is.
I don't know the word, but yeah, that's another one of them.
Weird when you think of all those things that we've had to defend over the years, where you're like, I don't say Earth's a pizza pie flying around the sun. Yeah, but you do. You heliocentrists absolutely require a pizza pie. That would be the equatorial plane flying around the sun.
And I love that. Sorry, Neil.
No, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I love that concept of that because I use that and we all use it. With the Eratosthenes, I know I keep going on about that sometimes, but, when they start saying, well, you give me some flat earth proof then, I'll say, well, Eratosthenes, there's your flat earth proof. So what these things that they've thrown in our face, they should be thrown back at them as our proof of a flat earth because it really shuts them up. It's a great tactic to use.
Shout out to Click Click Click, who says, "Hi kindred, I'm still seeing a flat Earth." Globe emoji, and it says "not," as in not a globe. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
there is something powerful in taking someone's belief and showing them, that it's proof of your knowledge.
Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on, we got a huh and a yeah, exactly. So I'll go with the
Say
huh.
that again, John.
Yeah, say that again.
There is something powerful in taking someone's belief and showing them that it is proof of what you know.
Oh, okay. You added the now. I got you. Absolutely.
Yeah. So they believe Eratosthenes measured the circumference of Earth, but we know he measured a flat Earth, and then did some mathematical, equations and calculations afterwards, which has got nothing to do with the actual measurement. So their belief that that's proof of a globe Earth is our knowledge, and we know that's a flat Earth elevation angle measurement that he was measuring.
Well, because of this, it's like all the ballers, all the old names that we're familiar with. What they're doing immediately now is they're going to space, and they're talking about the sun and the moon, and because of parallax, they can know that the moon is closer than the Earth is, than the sun is to the Earth. So that's where they're going to be now. They're going to be in Narnia because they don't want to deal with the measurements.
Well, they still got to deal with the measurements because length, width, and height is what you got to deal with in space. And the ascending nodes of their orbital mechanics to describe any of this, all of these things are based and require a flat plane to reference.
Oh, dear.
Yep, all roads truly do lead to a flat Earth. And it makes it all the more true and recognizable why you need all conspiracy roads to lead to flat Earth, right, Neil?
Yeah, because then flat Earth is a conspiracy itself. They was very clever how they did it.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier. So on screen now, you've got the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. And at first glance, you go, wow, this is quite complicated, isn't it? You got the tilt, hidden values, drop. You've got the distance measurement, linear. You've got your horizon below surface level. You've got your height of eye measured off the ball. It all looks very complicated. Right until you realise that there's two main fundamentals that must be measured. One is this. It's called surface level. The other is parallel with it, and it's called eye level. And height is perpendicular to the first flat Earth prerequisite, surface level. So what you're actually looking at is the claim in unorthographic representation. That's to say you're seeing the side of your own head. This is supposed to be the side of you. You never get this view. You never see the side of your own head. But in order to hijack perspective and suggest that you see a horizon in an orthographic view below a flat Earth measured prerequisite called surface level, you need all of this guff to make it seem cognitively expensive to process. With all of this, you don't notice this. You don't notice that you've got to measure surface level and height of eye perpendicular to it and eye level parallel with it. These are prerequisites required to make this calculation, not measurement, work. The measurements are flat. The distance is linear, horizontal, and with respect to surface level, as acquired when we used to do it at the Isle of Man from Google Earth.
Yeah, and the horizon is defined as where surface level appears to meet the sky. So it can't exist below surface level. That doesn't make any sense.
No. They've taken something that we experience, which is called perspective, and reclaimed it mathematically as Earth curve. That's the trick. Now, knowing that trick isn't necessary anymore because it's cheaper, cognitively cheaper, to understand what measurements are plugged into those maths. Once you know that the distance that you're going to use is horizontal and linear, and that your height off the surface level are both measurement values of Earth and its flat surface, you don't need to know anything else. Because Earth can only be measured flat to use those maths. At which point, why do you need to know how the maths work? Earth's been measured flat.
And once you know that the horizon has never been defined as a physical location, there can be never any mathematical calculations to give it a distance to.
Yeah. And again, knowing that the horizon is an optical phenomenon formed by the limitation of any lens that's viewing it. That's to say, it's representing a diffraction limit, the point where you can no longer resolve information in the distance. That's a description of perspective. And to quote Conspiracy Cats, I'll give you a flat earth for that, because there's no other way to measure it. Once you know,
that's what
you know. Go ahead, Neil.
I was going to say, that's when it started falling apart for them. That's when they started realizing that we were realizing it. No longer whistling past it. We're going to plant our flag there.
Yeah, just going to stop right here. So for you to progress in this claim to be debate, you've got to measure Earth flat. Okay, you've got two choices. Sink to your knees and acknowledge how flat you, globe believer, are required to measure Earth, or relinquish your measurements. Those are your only two choices. If you relinquish your measurements, you've got nothing to make a claim with. If you accept the Earth being flat by way of your measurement of it flat, then Earth is flat. That's how you require it to be measured. Here's the example of that straw man we covered earlier. So, suggest that the pizza pie flat Earth disk in space is something that I should defend. This is what's on screen now. What are we actually detailing in reality when we describe orbital mechanics? We're describing the plane derived from the equator, otherwise known as the equatorial plane, moving in a motion around the sun, only capable of description by way of a measurement of Earth's flat surface level with elevation angles. That's a new one, eh, Neil? Boats going over the horizon. Now the pizza pie flying in a sky vacuum is actually a projection of their own inadequacies in debate and argument that's created after measuring Earth flat for an equatorial plane to fly around the sun. Isn't that nuts? They project everything that's wrong with their own arguments onto us. And us, in that projection, are conspiratards, idiots that get here from various subjects that have got nothing to do with Earth measurement.
Well, if you think about it, that's the only road they could take.
Yeah, they've got to ridicule it somehow. They need to use it, so they need us to be arguing about whether or not they're hiding God.
Well, it goes right back to the beginning. I've said this before. I think I was in kindergarten or first grade when they show you the picture of people sailing, going over the edge. And then they start teaching you how in years past they thought the earth was flat. But now that we know it's a globe, and all the kids laughed at the picture of the dumb people thinking that the earth was flat, going over the edge. So it starts right there. That's where the inception was.
Yeah,
Then they measured it flat.
Yeah. They get you when you're young. Everyone
So
wants
why
to be a
change the
spaceman.
strategy, right? When this topic came out, put them in the conspiracy realm so they could be laughed at.
Yeah, the first thing I got to
We'll
when I
have
got
to.
here was Jesse Spots. Anybody know who Jesse Spots is?
Only from you.
Literally one of the first or second things I heard. So you go, okay, here's Math Powerland telling me Earth's flat. What else is out there? Well, there's this dude called Jesse Spots talking about how Mandela effect is real and how Taylor Swift's a clone. And we've got these cloning centres that are producing clone human beings. A bit like I think the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger's called Eighth Day. The Eighth Day. Something like that. Very
Yeah, don't change what works.
Unknown.
Say again?
It's all about having ideas in the unknown. Everything you work with is unknown, so you don't ever actually deal with what you know. That's where they want to exist, in the unknown. That's what the globe is. It's an argument for ignorance.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, the only reason we're able to clone people is because of the Anunnaki in outer space over the ice wall, on the other lands with the other suns who are controlling us from beyond the wall, obviously.
That's funny, but that's why we're so dangerous when we point out the measurements, because it's no longer anything else but the measurements and what the measurements say it is.
Yeah, it stops being about clone centers. It stops being about 9/11 truth. It stops being about Mandela effect. It stops being about subliminal messaging. It stops being about astronauts and NASA, and just becomes about the measurements everybody's using. And they're flat. But you can't have normal people talking about that sort of stuff. You need conspiracy idiots to be talking about it so they can be easily cast to one side. I mean, you've heard it in the last couple of months being told that, well, Earth just being a flat plane, like on screen now, to describe orbital motion. This is the disk I was talking about. This is their disk. What have I added to this picture? The words, this is a flat plane, and a dude standing where the angle's measured. But without that dude standing there, and without me pointing out that this is a flat plane, what have you got?
Just have a look and then.
Hey, Greg. Without that highlighted, you just see this and go, well, this looks complicated. This is the globe Earth, right? We've got the North Pole at the top, an axis of rotation, an orbital plane, the description of the equatorial plane, perigee and apogee, vernal equinox, ascending nodes, a satellite being described with an angle, measured off a planar surface. It all looks very complicated. What in reality is it? Well, it's a derivation of a flat Earth angle measurement to Polaris to give you this circle that's flat, called the equatorial plane. This is what they will put in motion around the sun. And where can you stand to be measuring the angle to the satellite in this example? Well, in hell, if the ball is an axis with North Pole measured, as described on this, like it's at your zenith. No, North isn't ever at your zenith. You might say that the pole star is at your zenith if you're at the North Pole. Why do they call it a pole? Well, because it's linguistically programming you into the acceptance of a ball, when in reality, North is anything but ball-shaped. It's planar. It's a direction, two-dimensional, from a compass. Planar. North would be here. South, east, and west, all on a plane. It's the only way it can be described. But if you can put this disk, that's a heliocentric equatorial plane, see, equator, this is what's put in motion around the sun. Yeah? The angles that are derived from it to the stars are nothing more than a glorified protractor. But if you colour in this area with a map and then put that around the sun, you, as an onlooker, go, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Ball Earth, like I was taught in school, moving around the sun. Here it is from a different view. Here's the same position, there's just no dude, it's not small enough. It's not big enough, rather, to put the tiny little dude inside. But it's the same exact principle with the extended celestial equator, otherwise known as the celestial plane, extending beyond the glorified protractor we call a globe Earth. Where does the angle measurement emanate from? Does it measure from the surface? On the contrary, it emanates from the centre of hell. If you're going to pretend that this disc, like we just saw in the previous depiction, moves around the sun. That's what they've done. They've taken flat Earth measurements, turned them into a pizza pie with a protractor wrapped around it, coloured the protractor in like it's a map, and then put that in motion around the sun. All you really need to know is what's being measured. In this case, there's only one measurement on screen. It's called this degree measurement at 40 with a little degree symbol. 40 degrees. 40 degrees of what? A planar surface and an intersecting line at a vertex, otherwise known as an angle measurement. That's the only thing being measured. According to this diagrammatical example, you need to be in hell to measure it. Anybody in hell? Hands up. No, nobody? No, you're never in hell. You're just on the planar surface to get the angle. Because all measurements of Earth's surface are flat. There aren't any exceptions to that. The deviation of the topology is also measured with respect to horizontal, with a linear horizontal distance to reference the deviation from the run in rise over run. That's surveying Earth as a flat plane with the hills and valleys described as a deviation from the horizontal measured in miles or kilometres. Earth's measured flat in all examples and there aren't any exceptions.
That was wonderfully explained. So dazzle them with bullshit. That's what they did.
Yes.
With that first thing you had up.
Perfect term. Baffle them with bullshit. Make it cognitively expensive. Now, after 10 years of understanding it, we can get to the nitty-gritty of what's really being used and how flat Earth is always being measured. But it's taken 10 years to get there. Now, for your average Joe, he doesn't need any of what I've just explained. He just needs to know how Earth gets measured. Here's the measurement on screen for the sun. So you could say, well, my understanding is that if we go down to Antarctica, whoa. First of all, you're going south. South's a flat direction. So you go south, and then you see the sun and measure it with respect to a planar surface for a 24-hour period. Suddenly you're being asked to explain why the sun does something in the sky, like a phenomenon. Well, you could explain that through the scientific method. If you want an answer to a cause for an effect that you're observing, that would be within the purview of the scientific method. But what's the empirical measurement being made? Well, it's a flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle to the sun. That's what's actually being measured. So what do you need to process? You need to process something that you don't have an answer for when describing south incorrectly as down. It isn't. What is down? Perpendicular to a plane of reference also. Like up. But if you can bastardize north into a pole and south into a downward direction, then you can wrap a map around a protractor and ask a non-believer in your religion of a ball with angles terminating in hell why the sun moves around your position if you're in Antarctica at a given time of year. When you understand that travelling south is a flat-only direction and that the measurements of the sun when you get there are off a flat plane, you've just travelled flat and then measured the sun flat. And those measurements are what created the ball to be asking about why a sun would be doing anything in context of that ball that's been made with flat Earth measurements. You're off mute, Arthur.
Sorry.
Right. Yeah, it's all a game, but you don't need to be privileged. You don't need to spend 10 years researching it and figure out what the wood is, what the trees are, how they relate to each other, what they're suggesting they calculate from both wood and tree. When you know that the entire forest is measured flat, who cares what the trees are doing? It doesn't matter anymore. Earth's measured flat by everybody. When they describe what the wood and trees are doing, they're using the same flat ground that we would use. So if you know it's measured flat, you don't need anything else. You don't need to figure out how the calculation works. Here's another example of their pizza pie with an actual dude standing in the middle of it. All you need to do is colour in the black and white crosses. Oh, there's extra ones outside it. This area here, colour that in as a ball, and Bob's your uncle, right? Other than the fact that the measurements with planar directionalities, west, east, south, north, all flat. It's the only way they can be described. It's what catches out most of my commenters from the ball side currently when they come to my comment section and start asking me how longitude functions when you travel west. And I go, west? You mean a flat earth only direction? Why would I answer you about your need to find out how longitude works when you're giving me flat earth prerequisites as part of your question?
So it all started with a plain flat pizza.
Yeah. That they put in motion with the protractor wrapped around it that they later colour in with a map they call the ball earth. This is it. It's on screen. This is the trick. But then when you actually look at what's being measured in this diagram? Well, a couple of things. Directionality, north, south, east and west. And angles. Right ascension. Declination.
It is without a doubt the weirdest religion on flat Earth.
It is.
How did we miss it?
But there is a comparable religion that also gets mocked. I still haven't quite figured out how this all fits together. But Scientology is a branch of heliocentrism that is 99.9% identical to the rest of the one world religion of heliocentrism. There's very little to distinguish between heliocentrism and Scientology. They are essentially the same thing. There is no difference.
Have you got an example of that, Nathan?
Yeah, the entire system of Scientology is based in a heliocentric worldview where the world travels around the sun. Everything about Scientology, Xenu, the aliens, the whole thing is based out in space on planets. That's entirely heliocentric by derivation. Now, the fact that they've all come from the same German ex-scientists after the war that create these religious beliefs and put them in motion in the same heliocentric system that was created several hundred years ago is no coincidence. In my opinion, the only thing I can feasibly conceive as a reason to have these two things align with one another so perfectly is so that should heliocentrism fail as a one world religion, it can be kept in a nice neat box on the shelf ready to be pulled back out again. And that's where Scientology comes in. You need to keep it as a religion so that should it be reacquired in the future, 500 years from now, it's tightly packaged up, ready to be reutilised, and the information doesn't get forgotten. But, I mean, that's purely my speculation. I have no idea if that's the reason for the existence of Scientology. What I do know for an absolute fact is Scientology and heliocentrism are one for one. They are the same. There's no, give me a difference between heliocentrism and Scientology. Name one difference.
Sounds like a conspiracy to me.
Well, it's Scientology is a subset cult of the heliocentric religion. So
yes.
it's a subset. It's not the actual set itself.
Correct. It's a derivation of heliocentrism. It's based in the heliocentric worldview. But like I said, that's why I can say they are one for one. There's no difference. If you ask a Scientologist, are we moving around the sun? Well, of course we are. We're on a big planet. A huge part of their religion is based on having an outer space to believe in, to have their thetans come from. Well, the moment you shatter the worldview of heliocentrism, what does Scientology have left as its foundation? Absolutely nothing is the answer to that.
Yeah, you shatter it with measurements. Once you measure Earth flat, the solar system means nothing anymore.
Yeah, you got your pizza pie moving around the sun in an orbital motion that requires flat planar measurements like on screen now for this altitude angle. Yeah, you do require that. You do require being in hell to describe the prerequisite measurements to create the heliocentric motion that Scientologists utilize to their own ends in their own cult-like belief. Doesn't change what directions are. They're on screen now. North, south, east, and west are flat, planar directionalities. Nothing's going to change that. Describing north as an axis through a ball doesn't change that the prerequisite measurements of the surface, described from within the ball, also have the same labelled directionalities on a flat plane. Only useful if you're describing the angle measurement as is depicted here from hell. If this is a hemispherical view of the ball that you're standing in, not on, to create a ball world view. You're never on a ball. You never were, mathematically. And to create the impression that there is a ball in existence to begin with, you must and can only measure Earth flat to achieve those ends.
I mean, this is what, he's not here at the moment, is he, refracted, but when he was going up against Albi Ruhith and Toon, was it? He said, you can have anything you want. You know, you can have the celestial sphere, you can have the equatorial, whatever you want to use, we'll use, because you will be using a flat horizontal plane in every instance. And that's true.
What did you call him?
Albi Ruhith.
Albi Ruhith. Albi Ruhith knew the globe was flat. He measured the height of a mountain like that.
Well, we're on
he
the
did
subject.
with a theodolite.
I've just got a quick question, just for my own benefit. How's that geometric horizon working out for you there, Ruhith? Good? Well?
His answer is it's the apparent horizon, and we cannot see it because of refraction. Something to that effect.
Yeah, you're going to need a surface level measurement to acquire your height thereof to describe the non-geometric horizon below surface level. How interesting.
Yeah, he swears. He was telling the guys in Earth Awakenings that it is a physical place that you can measure. It's just that you can't, because light bends, right? So because the bending of light, you can't get a proper measurement to it.
Maybe you should take it up with Conspiracy Cats when he describes perspective with respect to a flat planar surface. Or to give a quote to make it more concise. I'll give you a flat earth for that perspective. Is that light bending? Really? How are you going to describe the diffraction limit? How are you going to describe perspective angles? You're not, is the answer. You will measure Earth flat for all those things, though.
That never made sense to me, because if there's something physical in the distance and tangible, then there's no doubt about it that you can get a measurement to it. So the fact that they could never get an accurate measurement to the horizon tells you that it's not tangible.
So what have we got to go on? Elevation angle measurements to Polaris and their minimum to derive a radial value that's plugged into a begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator that infers if you measure your horizontal linear distance measurement and perpendicular eye level off surface level, you can infer that there's a geometric physical sphere edge horizon below the surface level you've actually measured. That's what they require. You're going to need a flat Earth for all that garbage, and obviously unpacking that for an audience really does us no justice at all. Because what did we plug into those mathematics to have this argument with Albi Ruhith in this instance? Flat Earth horizontal linear measurements of distance and perpendicular eye level off surface level. Earth's measured flat to have this argument. So why have the argument?
Agreed.
There was never an argument to begin with.
Had some good points there. I think it was really interesting. Not like you're ending the show or anything, but like, yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far. Really precise, really some interesting facts and details. Excellent.
Absolutely.
I was actually going to round
Absolutely.
out. Go ahead, whoever that was.
No, I'm agreeing with one deck. A lot of information. The way you laid it out, perfect.
Well, we're going to
Very easy to understand.
We're going to get into the song. So this song is called If Earth Was a Big Roast Chicken. It's by the guy I just spoke 2 seconds ago, called Wandek.
I'm spitting facts that Earth's measured flat. You might not like that, but facts are facts. Vertical heights from surface level. Horizontal linear measurements on the scale of maps axiomatically proves that, ooh, you might not like that, but facts are facts. And I'm spitting it flat and that perpendicular to a plane of reference that's height right parallel, flight level above sea level. If the earth was flat, we would measure it flat. We measure it flat, so earth is flat. And I'm spitting facts about that. You might not like that. You can't assume earth a sphere by circular reasoning, but when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme. If the earth was flat, we would measure it flat. We measure it flat, so earth is flat. And I'm spitting facts about that. You might not like that. You can't assume earth a sphere by circular reasoning, but when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. And I'm spitting it flat and that. If the earth was flat, we will measure it flat. We measure it flat, so earth is flat.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. I really like the roast chicken song, I've got to be honest. It's great. I like how you posted in Master B. This is the original edit and the only edit. As in, I'm not changing a damn thing about it.
Yeah, you get people messages. If you just did this and you just did... Well, yeah, I think it sounds pretty good as it is. So
I think it's great. Nothing needs changing. It's fantastic. I like
That's
it.
better than being King Chicken, huh?
It's got some great aspects to it, and it's radio length as well. It's like perfect. It's just under 3 minutes. Not that there's anything wrong with 10th Man 6-minute song, but I've got a very classical idea of what a song should be. It should fit into a nice radio section at 3 minutes long.
Oh, hold on. So you're saying you would have been the guy to tell Queen that the song is too long? You would have been that guy.
Yeah, I would have been.
he's the king, Neil. What do you expect?
No, I wouldn't have. I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody was a long song, and to give it its full, just deserves, it should get played in full. And the radio stations didn't like that. They've got certain time slots, and they want a couple, if not 3 songs in a certain segment, and then they want to go to the news. And that's how they are. So when you've got one song that lasts longer than that, and you've got to hack it down to make it work on the radio, that's not good for the song. It's not good for the person who's created it. And I'm with you all the way, Neil. But it doesn't change that If Earth Was a Big Roast Chicken is a freaking banger, does it?
Nah, great song. I think both of them are great.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely.
Anne Len's song about where
That's
are the
why the
guns?
Beatles were so popular.
Say again?
Oh, sorry. No, I was saying that's why the Beatles became so popular. They mastered the formula of a 3-minute song. I mean, they're really the first ones to really do it with pop. I mean, they were rock, but I mean, they kind of invented pop music at the same time.
Early Beatles, yeah, not the later Beatles. You got some 8-minute songs there.
I don't know if they invented that. That was just still the format back then. You had plenty of...
Exactly.
What you had was what they called the English invasion at the time. And there was plenty of bands that were doing really good music, and they just sold out to that concept of creating 3-minute jingles that could play well on the radio. Now, that was always the case. So, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say the Beatles came up with that. They knew how to exploit it, and they did exploit it to its fullest. But that doesn't mean they invented it.
Brian Epstein, and he knew how to exploit it, and that's what he did. But it wasn't until... That's the whole thing with them. They did not want to fit that mold. They wanted to be the ones leading the way. That's why they became a studio group. But anyway, back to Flat Earth. We got some people here that are ill-informed about certain situations, and it's starting to piss me off.
Who? What situations?
Ranty. Now, yesterday he was in the chat and he claimed to have your back, but his video does not have your back.
Right, you've got to understand that there's a lot of people out there that lead very boring lives, Neil, right? And when they see something going on in someone else's interesting life, they want to comment on it. But ultimately speaking, these people are boring. Ranty's no exception. He's boring. He's got one interesting element of his life that's quite crude and rude. I'm not going to go into right now. But other than that, he has got very little going on in his life that's interesting. Now me, I'm interesting, aren't I?
Very, yeah. I knew he was going to come out of the woodworks once this hit the fan. But answer me a question. I hit the lotto tomorrow, right? Let's just say. And I hire builders to build a house for me. And they build a beautiful house for me. I do not put one nail in that house to construct it. Can they ever take my house from me and say it's theirs now?
For chapter 4, they can.
If what?
After chapter 4, they can.
After the second story, they can. The rest of the stories, they came up with themselves, right?
Story's good one. Yeah, is it a 5-story house or a 6-story house?
It's a lottery winner, so probably 20 stories. I remember Jack D doing a bit on the difference between pools winners and lottery winners. And if you know what the pools are here, pools are like guessing the football scores, and then before the lottery existed, that was the only way to become an instant millionaire. You won the pools, and it tended to be the case that pools winners were very reserved. So you'd get an interview with a pools winner and they'd be like, I might buy a new pencil. Maybe I'll buy a new biro. You know, that sort of attitude. Whereas lottery winners are like, I'm going to go out and buy 5 Lamborghinis immediately. I'm going to build my own house.
And they go broke.
And then they go broke. Yes. There's loads of riches to rags stories amongst lottery winners. They just piss through their money so quickly. They're like, no, you don't have an infinite amount of money. You've got a couple of million. What are you doing? Just be reserved. No, I need 3 Lamborghinis.
You know, the ones that did succeed, it's funny how they did like a survey. I understand how surveys are made up, but this one, it was the people that were generous with their money and began helping other people where their money grew. And the ones that became stingy and withheld it, there are horror stories that you would not believe.
They're saying having a philanthropic nature makes you more rich. I don't know if I agree with that.
Oh, that's what they were saying, that the people that were more like, I mean, they didn't just give their money away. I mean, but they were very generous with it.
There's also plenty of stories that are similar from the music industry. So if you ever look at MC Hammer, you know who MC Hammer is? Can't touch this. Do. Look at his riches to rags story, where he's like got all the employees in brand new Beamers and things. Just bonkers. He just
Yeah, but that's foolish spending.
Yeah, very much so.
That's foolish. That's looking out for them too much. It's not even using your brain there. You just, what do you think it was going to go on forever?
Yeah,
it happens with a lot of the athletes in America too, because they're coming from like very impoverished areas, and what they're doing is they're becoming millionaires overnight, and they don't know how to handle the success with the money, and most of them are broke by the time they're 34. Now, the average life of a football player, a running back, is 2 or 3 years in American football. So, I mean, if you're not equipped to do anything after that, you're screwed. I don't care how much you make. The money does not go on forever unless you invest it wisely.
You know who I really like listening to stories from when it comes to American athletes? Shaq. Have you ever heard him talk about his journey through life in general? So there was one example where he was talking about going on to a university course, and the university basically said, no, we're not going to run this course unless we've got like 20 people on it. So it's like, fine. Went out and found 20 mates and was like, you're all coming and doing this course with me. You're like, that kind of philanthropy is just outstanding because it makes a really good story.
Well, he didn't understand it. He learned the difference between being rich and being wealthy. You got to hear him explain that. He thought he was wealthy.
I go on, regale us with this version of what the difference between wealth and... What was it?
Well, wealth is generational. You could just be rich and it dies with you. But if you want to be wealthy, you got to plan for your children's children's children. You're creating generational wealth as opposed to just being a flash in a pan rich.
Fair enough.
But Shaq is very generous too. They show you he just goes in like some kid was asking his mother for a bike. He overheard it. The mother couldn't afford it. He went and bought the kid a bike. Things like that if you're doing it from the heart, I mean, it follows you. What you sow is what you reap. So it makes sense to me that people that hit the lotto and were just genuinely generous, if people had a need and they met that need, it's going to come back to them.
Well, from what I understand, is a cigar called Hamlet.
We got away from what was important, though, guys. If you're Quantum Eraser or Adam, and you're sitting there and thinking, wow, Ranty Flat Earth is taking my side, how right can you feel?
Is he really? Ranty's on their side, is he?
Oh, yeah, he's taking them back. He thinks they wrote the book and they're the writers, and you're just a guy that just supervised and did nothing.
Oh, I don't care. I don't want to talk about these two numpties anymore. I'm too busy doing my own thing when it comes to writing my book, and that's what I'll continue to do. Want to hear a little?
How's it coming anyway?
Do you want to hear a little excerpt from what I've wrote today?
Yeah, I just asked how's it going. That's perfect. Let's hear it.
Well, on a Tuesday, I tend to get quite a lot done because my eldest daughter's in an art class that I have to travel quite a distance to get to. It takes about 45 minutes, maybe a bit longer, depending on traffic, to get there. And then once I'm there, I'm not going to drive home. So I'll just sit in the teacher's front room. And normally what I'd do is just watch YouTube videos. Or what I used to do was buy microphones while I was sat there, just like look through eBay and look at new listings. Whereas what I've been doing recently is writing chapters based on what my wife's extrapolated from her transcription process and said, why don't you give us an anecdote about... Well, I've got all the notes here, so I'll just read them. So I've got like notes that she said, and I've just put them in shorthand that I understand. So for instance, Oxford one-legged Freemason, Bob and Cammy 4-pole map on my logo. Bob no doubt died after attacking me and everyone around him for years. Gerron and the scientific method. How it's relevant to Antarctica. Cavendish non-experiment. Diffraction that I didn't know in debate with cats. These are all like subheadings of things that I can give anecdotal information about, right? So if I just launch into a random bit here, I'll just start at a random random part that I wrote today. Through ignorance, I went along with this and spent a significant amount of time arguing about how much the Isle of Man should or shouldn't be seen, while not spotting that the measurements punched into the calculator were all flat Earth prerequisites. Measuring a flat Earth for height above sea level, linear, horizontal distance, and parallel eye level were all required. That's a spelling error. And clearly labelled in the maths of Earth curve calculation. There you go, that's just one little section of what I wrote today. It goes on to talk about Muppet vision and St. Bees being 30 miles away with linear distance measurements, etc., etc. But that's the kind of thing I've been writing today. I'll give you another one. So this one's from a completely different chapter. Jaron, McToon, and the scientific method. Again, I'm just going to launch in at a random point. This process of flat Earth angle measurement was interrupted by a call made to me personally by one of the other participants of this scientific hijacking, another character in Antarctica with Jaron called McToon. This character called the debate to tell me personally that he observed the sun for 24 hours there. During the phone call, broadcast live on YouTube, I pointed out that the measurements were of elevation angles only possible on a flat Earth. The generated response made many songs about flat Earth. I'll just read that again. The response generated many songs as McToon attempted to deflect away from this flat Earth measurement fact, which had been pointed out to him 99 times prior in message responses below my videos. McToon was compelled to communicate with me via. He asked, quote, "Where are the guns, Nathan?" referring to a comment made 8 years prior, where it was pointed out that unofficial visits would result in being turned away from Antarctica at gunpoint. A point proven 6 months later after the trip, when an unofficial visit to Antarctica resulted in the Chilean government escorting a trespassing visitor away at gunpoint. Yeah, it goes on, but I don't want to give you too much. But you know, these are anecdotes that hopefully will spice up the rather dull calculations and formulas that the book had become with our now sacked editors.
Outstanding.
It's good. It's good because for each little thing and progression in your progression story from 10 years ago, but it was probably 14. You're getting a story for each new thing that you've learned. Or I can't get any words out, but you know what I'm trying to say. You know, there's a story behind it, like you say, without just giving a calculation of like Earth's measured flat and we can use a sextant and all that. You're saying, well, we had this Isle of Man thing going on, and we was arguing a toss about seeing too far. And this part of the journey, isn't it? That's what I'm trying to say. It's part of the journey, the learning journey.
Yeah, and I can reflect upon it with embarrassment. And I think that's where people will hopefully relate to the book and what I'm writing, in the respect that there's a high degree of embarrassment when you realise the easy to identify now and easy to digest simplistic facts of Earth measurement. When you look back on, like we did in today's show, when you look at the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator and go, there's surface level, it's part of the measurement. There's eye level, it's part of the measurement. The two are parallel with one another. It's part of the measurement of Earth and its flat surface. When you put that out, people go, yeah, it seems really obvious when you think about it. You go, yeah, it is. Now, that's not to say that that guy who gets the simplistic rendition of how Earth is measured flat for the Earth curve calculator, it doesn't mean that suddenly that guy understands the ins and outs of the Earth curve calculation to the same degree we do. But he doesn't need to. She doesn't need to understand why there's a point below the surface level called the horizon in an orthographic Muppet view. You don't need any of that once you know that the only thing being punched into that calculator are flat Earth measurements. I'll just read the last sentence from that paragraph, which was about the hijacking of scientific method, Antarctica, Jaron and McToon. There's a bit of Dave McKeegan in there as well. This was the reason Inside Man Jaron had taken it upon himself to mock science, claim I was a scammer, and suggests the method proved nothing, only to later move back onto the globe, taking many onlookers with him, as he justified his transition back to the globe with this so-called experiment, which was nothing more than a dance to hide the flat Earth actually being measured.
That's great.
Like I
Love
say,
it.
it's really easy. So I take a subheading that my wife's given me. So she's like Jaron McToon and the scientific method because of whatever chapter she's covering. I don't know. I'm not really paying attention to her transcription process. It just frustrates me listening to Quantum Eraser and whatever his name is. I don't want to listen to it, so I'll go into the next room. But she'll occasionally call me in and go, you need to just make a note on this and start giving me an anecdotal account of X. And I'll go, right, I'll write that in my notes and I'll type it up on Tuesday while my kid's doing a art class. But today, when we're saying about you don't need to convert anybody, when you get lost in the moment a little bit, and I'm writing this stuff, and then what I'm doing to hear how it sounds back, because that's why I knew which sections to pick out to read out today. What I'm doing is I'm getting the iPad to read it back to me. So it's got like a text-to-voice facility. If you drag two fingers down an iPad or an iPhone, it'll start reading whatever's on screen, and that's what I use while I'm writing this stuff out. So I'm doing that. I'm typing out a paragraph, and then I'm running my fingers down and listening to it back as it's read from the voice text-to-voice reader. Now I'm doing that for the hour and a half, and towards the end I lose track of time. I look up, and the art teacher's hanging up my kid and all the other kids' artwork on the wall so that she can take her photographs of it, because as she's told me before, once these kids do the work, it just vanishes, right? It just disappears from her presence. So she likes getting photos of it. But I hadn't noticed. And what I'm doing with my iPad relatively loud is playing chunks of my book. And she's overhearing this stuff. So she's hearing me describe John Stunyer as a con man, and then talking about how he's educated me in the scientific method, and then going on to explain how Earth's measured flat in Antarctica in this paragraph while she's sticking these pictures up on the wall. And because I didn't notice her there, she's I can see one eyebrow raised, let's just put it that way, when I lift my head. Oh, right, she's in here with me. Oh yeah, and she's overhearing this stuff. Now, she didn't mention it, she didn't say a word, but I know damn well she was listening. Not intentionally, I wasn't playing it for her benefit. She just happened to walk in while I'm having, like I say, the text-to-speech play it back to me, these paragraphs that I've just written. And she's hearing them too. I'm like, I've known this woman for 8 years, 7 years, something like that. I think Eleanor joined the class when she was about 2.5, 3 years old. And she's now the longest-serving student she's ever had, she told me the other day. But it means I've known her for a significant amount of time. But it's never come up. She's never asked me what I do for a living, and I've never seen the need to tell her.
Oh, that's why I call it overhearing. She has overheard something. Probably piqued her interest, I bet.
Like I say, I saw that one eyebrow. I went, oh, maybe I shouldn't be using the text-to-voice in here. Stick to buying microphones, baby.
Just on the Antarctica trip notes that you just wrote, when you started reading that, I was getting a little bit worried that you might start getting a little bit, like when you talk it through and you get, but I think you wrote that well. There's no animosity in it. It's just pointing out the facts, isn't it? That these guys went down there claiming science. They don't know what the scientific method is, and they actually measured Earth flat. You've not got into the, calling names and things like that. It's just using that story to bring points out of the story.
Yes,
as in they was measuring Earth flat. Yeah, so
I'm
very,
trying to be
very
honest
good.
in my writing. I'm trying to be as honest as possible and humble. That is to say, there's various different points where I'll admit my ignorance. So, for example, when Conspiracy Cats has got me over a barrel and I can't give him a one-word answer to define diffraction, that links nicely into his aversion to a planar description of perspective when trying to corner me with diffraction limits. Perspective, essentially. All that diffraction actually is interference, and contextually, it's perspective. Well, why would he need to corner me and get me over a barrel with diffraction? Well, because, quote, I'll give you a flat earth for that, end quote. In other words, by having a certain degree of humility when I'm writing this stuff and understanding the limitations that I've expressed to an audience, humiliating at the time, has actually turned into a justification for someone else's pain being projected onto me. Now, all I realise in the moment is that I don't know something. Now, when you look back, you go, there's loads of things you don't know. Why would that be such a massive embarrassment? It's because you're perceived, 5 years into the discussion, let's say it is, to be the guru. You're supposed to know everything, right? And recognising your own limitations leads you to then step back from your ignorance in the moment and realise what's really going on. In this case, my opponent doesn't want me to recognise how flat Earth must be measured for this thing called diffraction, a limitation of perspective that you'll, quote, give me a flat Earth for when push comes to shove. But what you don't know, and what seems to be extremely embarrassing in reality is your opponent's pain projected onto you. But you can only really experience or describe that verbally or in writing in this case if you step back from your own ignorance and just laugh at it. Yeah, I was stupid. Yeah, I didn't recognise how horizontal we were measuring it when we drew out a line on Google Earth and ascribed a mile value to a calculation that used flat Earth measurements. You can only laugh about it after the fact, but you've got to have, or I've got to have, a certain degree of humility to do that. And I don't mind. It's like water off a duck's back after 11 years of complete ridicule. But what you do learn is, why are you being ridiculed? It's always the same reason. It's projection. It's your opponent projecting their pain onto you.
Yeah, well said. Totally agree. But yeah, I think it'll be great now where you're adding some like stories into it, so people can understand this journey. And I think it's great that, no, it's not great because you're going through a lot of stress and pain, and it's putting a long time in it. But the fact that Paul is helping you, and it's the two of you now, sort of, the book's going to be, it's a book wrote with love.
Yeah. I'd or have got, just haven't spoken to him for a while, an Indian friend, as in from India, Sikh friend called Govinda, and he used a slur many years ago that I didn't know. He called me an Indian giver, so I'd given him something and then asked for it back. Now, until I did that, I didn't know the term Indian giver. Now, it's a racist term that isn't necessarily favoured. But somebody in my comment section used that terminology to describe the circumstances that have befallen me. They're like, I don't like Indian givers. And I instantaneously knew what it was and went and looked up the, to find a pleasant-ish description for anybody else who's come across that term but doesn't know what it means.
You did not know what the terminology Indian giver meant?
10 years ago, I didn't know what it meant, no. If you never heard something, you never heard something.
Wow, that's weird because that's as kids.
It's an American.
As a kid, I knew that.
It's an American saying.
Yeah, it's because it's to do with native Indians. That's to say, I used to think you guys were saying engines. Engines. You'd say.
Engines.
Anyway.
The Seinfeld episode.
I hate Seinfeld. I've always said I hate Seinfeld. Anyway.
Indian giver. That's something I would use in like kindergarten. He's an Indian giver. But we didn't know, like, it wasn't considered racist like a decade ago.
Exactly. I guess so. I guess it's because we're Americans and you're Brits. You don't know anything about Indian giving.
Right.
Such a racist.
Thanks, Craig.
So I just walked in and I just heard Neil's comment and I thought, wow. We love the Americans.
I don't know if we get that far. Tolerate. That's the word you're looking for.
Hey, I'd be careful. Who raised us? The king?
What are you saying? You just diluted Brits?
We're only a product of our parents.
Well, I blame the Irish then. Right, anything else anybody wants to add? No, I'm going to round out.
Yes, I got a question.
Go ahead.
When you use AI, should AI reference where it gets its material from?
Yes, I think it should. That's primary source research and referencing. If you were writing a book, you'd want references for what you'd stolen. I mean, referenced.
Yeah, so should it be made mandatory? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
so every time you ask
be.
AI a question,
it should say, this is where I got this material from. Do you know what it actually does? It says at the bottom of notice of any AI explanation you get when you do an AI search now, it says AI might be wrong. Don't necessarily take it as read that AI is correct. That's what it says as a disclaimer at the bottom now. Check, do an AI search on anything, and you'll scroll to the bottom of the AI description, and it'll say, you can't take this as a legally binding explanation for anything. It could be completely wrong.
yeah, but if I read a book and even went to primary source, doesn't mean it's right, but I still want to know where it got that information from, surely.
Correct. Yeah, you want to know what the originating source was so that you can do primary source research. But if you've got literally nothing to go on and not even quotation marks around the bit that you've stolen from somewhere, which is what you'd call it if you're not referencing it, that's to say you've not put it in quotes and you've not got it at the back of your book in the reference section, then what is it? It's just you plagiarizing someone else's work as your own with no indication of where it's come from. Well, AI comes across as God in that respect. It's just, here is the answer. You're like, well, where'd you get that from?
That was like in The Wizard of Oz, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is the Wizard of Oz. That's what AI is. It's a good way of putting it. I like that.
Oh, well.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonder wizard of AI.
Oh, well, it could be worse. We could all believe in some other unearthly thing like a god or something.
Oh, here we go. You're going to trigger everyone on the panel. I'm going to round out. With that, another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting me up on PayPal and Ko-Fi, Patreon, all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.